Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, let me be brutally honest with you, like I'm in the confessional. I was going to lead today's show with the Epstein files and the dump of, 3 million documents and photos and videotapes, which is a massive story and deserves, honestly, a lot of attention, primarily because it's clearly a Democrat scandal. The names now that are being revealed, whether they be in the media, in politics, in the business world, in Hollywood, it's one prominent Democrat after another. And so I was going to obviously talk about that. However, President Trump on Wednesday, in fact, Wednesday evening, NBC News with Tom Lamas, gave one of the most consequential, important interviews, I think, of his entire presidency and of his entire administration. And it made it made news, obviously, but it should be, to me, the biggest story in America. There's no question. And the reason why, because you may be saying, well, Jeff, if this thing is the biggest story in America, why aren't so many Americans even know about it or even talking about it? It's because, frankly, and I feel very sorry for Savannah Guthrie, and I feel obviously very sorry for her mom, Nancy Guthrie, who appears has been kidnapped and abducted. The media saturation coverage of the kidnapping and abduction of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Savannah Guthrie, has now swamped everything else. It has pushed everything else off of the news cycle. It is 24/7 saturation coverage. That's all it is now. It's been for 3, 4, 5 days, to the point that this massive story, and it is a massive story, that we are going to be living with for the rest of President Trump's term, and the consequences and fallout have really, outside of some important news sites who picked up on it, really has now fallen through the cracks. And so, let me tell you exactly what was said. And then I want to get your take. 617-266-6868. As you know, there has been a huge public relations backlash over the shooting deaths of both Alex Preddy and Renee Good. And so, and obviously violent street protests, riots, really an insurrection has broken out in Minneapolis and in other parts of Minnesota, but especially in Minneapolis. And so, fearing now a bloodbath in the midterms, fearing now that Republicans are losing the immigration war, the PR war, the political war, President Trump now has decided to make, in his words, a strategic shift. And so, on Wednesday evening, in an interview with Tom Lamas, he said that we are now going to be putting forth, going forward, a new strategy. From this point on, he said, okay, we're going to finish Operation Metro Surge in Minneapolis. It's going to get completed. We are going to get all of these violent, criminal, illegal aliens that we set out to capture, detain, and eventually deport. They have, by the way, captured and detained over 4,000 criminal illegal aliens. So even though they faced massive obstruction, massive interference, they are still making arrests, and now we're looking at 4,000 arrested and counting. But going forward, he says, there's going to be a new strategy. He will only deploy ICE agents to red states, and this is the key, to those blue cities and blue states that the mayors or governors, quote unquote, ask for ICE agents to come. And as he said, you don't have to just request. I want it in writing, and you have to say, please. You can't just say, I want them, we need them. It's got to be please, and it's got to be a written request. In other words, going forward, President Trump now says he will only send ICE into so-called sanctuary cities if and only if the mayors or the governors specifically invite, specifically ask or request for ICE to be deployed. Otherwise, he says, I'm not wasting my time. I don't want to see the images of these street protests and riots. I don't want to see the possibility of activists clashing with ICE agents and some of these activists, these anti-ICE agitators, getting caught up in a scuffle and being shot. He said, I don't want these images on the screen. It's bad for the country. It's bad for our stability. Frankly, it's bad for us politically. And so he says that his strategy now is to make it crystal clear to every single blue city mayor and blue city governor. Now, and this applies specifically to Brandon Johnson of Chicago, Mayor Michelle Wu of Boston, Mamdani of New York City, Karen Bass of Los Angeles, that he says we will not send in ICE agents whatsoever unless you request them to come. And we want it in writing. In other words, I want to send them to places like New Orleans. He mentioned New Orleans in his interview with Lamas. Or Memphis, Tennessee, even though these tend to be blue cities, they're in red states. The mayors are welcoming ICE in. They want ICE there. The governors have requested for them to go there. They're giving them the proper local law enforcement and state law enforcement backup to conduct their operations, to share important information. He says, so unless we get absolute cooperation from mayors and governors, predominantly in red states, but okay, fine, we'll do it in blue areas, but it's got to be with a specific request and an invitation. He said, otherwise, we are not going into these sanctuary jurisdictions. Let those mayors and those governors live with the consequences of their decision. If they want to coddle, this is what Trump basically said to Lamas, if they want to coddle murderers and rapists, if they want to coddle pedophiles and sex and drug traffickers, if they want to see their crime rates explode, and he said that's what's going to happen, their crime rates are going to explode. If they want to have more waves of migrants coming into their cities as they move from, say, red states or red jurisdictions to these sanctuary jurisdictions, then it's on them and it's on their voters who put them in office. So basically he's saying, you want sanctuary cities? You want these criminals? You want this crime? You want this chaos and anarchy and lawlessness? You know what? You want it, you got it. But don't come crying to me when the consequences are brutal and devastating and your voters eventually turn against you. I'm only going to go where I'm wanted and where ICE is wanted. Now, let me make 2 points, and then I want to open it up. I'm going to play some cuts because I want you to hear it straight from him. I don't want people to say I'm mischaracterizing the president's position because I'm telling you I'm not. What Trump is calling this is an invitation-only model. The model now is not mass deportations and deploy ICE wherever they feel is important to nab as many illegal alien criminals as possible, whether the mayors or governors want it or not. It's now invitation only. And he believes it's going to be more effective. According to him, it's going to tamp down the temperature. It's going to end a lot of these street protests and street riots. And he believes in the long term, it's going to be a more effective strategy. Now, to many people who like this new shift, their argument is he's now meeting the reality of the moment. Politics is the art of the possible. And so he's making a strategic retreat. He's trying to ease political temperatures, prevent the possibility of more violence. He doesn't want to see any more American citizens get shot or get killed in confrontations with ICE agents. So if the blue states and the blue cities really don't want to control their criminals and really want to live with illegal criminal migrant crime, let them live with the consequences, the implications, and then clean them out from areas like the red states where people want to see the law enforced. And so Trump is playing 3D chess. He's outmaneuvering the media. He's outmaneuvering the Democrats and these sanctuary jurisdictions. I disagree. That's the argument that many are making. I hear you, but I disagree. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, President Trump now announces his words, a new strategy going forward on mass deportations and the deployment of ICE agents. To me, he is reversing course. I think he's clearly reversing course. But I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. He is now saying he's adopting essentially what the White House is calling an invitation-only model. He will only send ICE agents to conduct these deportations if and only if the mayor and the governor specifically ask or request ICE to be there to conduct these operations and that they're willing to fully cooperate with local and state law enforcement. Otherwise, he says, because there's so many illegals to deport, he says, we're going to go to the red states where we're wanted. And there are some blue cities in these red states. Again, he mentioned New Orleans, Memphis, and Tennessee, where the mayors have been very cooperative. He said, that's fine. But those other blue states, blue cities, the sanctuary jurisdictions, if they don't want us, they can have the illegals and let them stew in the crime. And then they have to deal with the consequences of not deporting all of these violent, illegal alien criminals. I believe President Trump has caved, as I stated in my opening monologue. To me, one of the keystones of his reelection campaign, one of his central planks of his entire campaign, was mass deportations across the whole country, especially in sanctuary states and sanctuary jurisdictions. That federal immigration law applies to everyone, every American, no matter where you live, and in every state and in every jurisdiction. But apparently now, looking at the poll, and by the way, what surprises me is the polls still show that Trump has strong support on ICE and on mass deportations. Contrary to the lies from the fake news media and this relentless propaganda campaign and the images of Alex Preddy and Renee Good and the protests, to me, it reminds me very much of the Vietnam War, where the elites kept saying that, the war's unpopular, but actually the majority of the American people never gave up faith in the United States and remained loyal to our soldiers and to winning the war all the way until the end. So the overwhelming majority of the American people are still with Trump on this issue. But he says the optics look horrible, and if they're going to prevent a bloodbath in November, they're going to have to recalibrate, and he's recalibrating. So let me just play the cuts, and I want to take all of your calls. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is President Trump with Tom Lamas already on NBC News. Homan has now already announced 700 immigration officers have already pulled out and withdrawn from Minneapolis. They're going to be drawing down even many more. And he said, the question is, did this come from you? Who gave the order to start pulling out all of these immigration officers and officials and agents? Roll cut 101, Mike.
700 officers leaving Minneapolis. Did that come from you?
Yes, it did. But it didn't come from me because I just wanted to do it. We are waiting for them to release prisoners, give us the murderers that they're holding, and all of the bad people, drug dealers, all of the bad people. We allowed in our country, I say 25 million people with an open border policy for 4 years under Biden and that group, the auto pen group, I call them. We allowed to come into our country people the likes of which no country would accept, and we're getting them out.
He then says that crime is down in Minnesota because of these raids, these targeted ICE raids. He's right. He says that crime is down, for example, even in Chicago, by a lot because of these raids, even though they're getting so much resistance from that insane mayor, Brandon Johnson, and of course the governor, Pritzker. And he then bashes the Democrats, and he's right, saying they don't know anything about crime prevention. But Lamas then says, okay, but specifically about Minneapolis, you're now, it looks like you're going into a new direction, a new shift, a new strategy. Listen now to President Trump. Roll cut 101B, Mike.
Mr. President, speaking of Minneapolis, what did you learn?
I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals. But look, I've called the people. I've called the governor. I've called the mayor, spoke to them, had great conversations with them, and then I see them ranting and raving out there, literally as though a call wasn't made.
So then Lamas obviously then makes the follow-up question. Well, did you spoke to them and he said, look, what about the shooting of Renee Good? What about the shooting of Alex Preddy? Roll cut 102, Mike.
Speaking of Minneapolis, after the shooting of Renee Good, you said ICE made some mistakes. What were the mistakes?
Well, look, I'm not happy with the two incidents. It's not, it's both of them. Not one or the other. He was not an angel, and she was not an angel. You look at some tapes from back, but still, I'm not happy with what happened there. And nobody could be happy, and ICE wasn't happy either. But I'm going to always be with our great people of law enforcement. ICE, police, we have to back them. If we don't back them, we don't have a country.
So, which I agree with. Now, then coming up, I'm going to exactly lay out what he told Lamas about this new change in policy and then get all of your calls, 617-266-6868. Don't touch that dial. Okay, listen now. This is Trump's interview with Tom Lamas, NBC Evening News. So Lamas then asks, and it's building up to the key, this new strategy that Trump has now unveiled. He's asked about the shooting deaths, the fatal shootings of both Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And he asked him specifically, well, do you think they were justified? Do you think those were justified shootings? Listen now to President Trump's response. Roll cut 102A, Mike.
You mentioned Renee Good and Alex Preddy not being angels. Do you think any of that justified what happened to them, though?
No, I don't. It should have not happened. It was a very sad, to me, it was a very sad incident, two incidents. And, they mention the one now, they don't mention the other. Well, I think they were both sad. And, who feels worse about it than anybody? The people of ICE. They're strong, tough people, and they have to be tough because we're dealing with hardened criminals.
Now, okay. So, by the way, I disagree with him. I'm sorry. I think they were justified. I do. I'm sorry. To me, I'm not saying he's throwing ICE under the bus. He's not. But I got it. I mean, I don't know what you want these poor people to do. You've got a madman with a loaded gun who's coming up and interfering and obstructing you as you're trying to make an arrest. And, who was attacking the vehicles of ICE agents just a week before, smashing their taillights and spitting on them. And you're coming in there with a loaded gun. They see a loaded gun. They're trying to reach for it. He's resisting arrest. There's a struggle. I'm sorry. I mean, you're putting these ICE agents in impossible situations and then saying, well, the shootings aren't justified. I'm sorry. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Same thing with Nicole Good. Renee Nicole Good. Renee Good. You try to run over an ICE agent, you ram him, you hit him. Well, what's he going to do? Just stand there and get run over? Of course he's going to draw his weapon. I mean, he'd be crazy not to. So honestly, I disagree. But let that go, okay? Just let all that go. Now, we're going to get the cut. For whatever reason, there's a problem with the technology here. We got a technical issue. I'm going to play you the cut, I promise. But I'm going to read to you from the transcript, okay? So here is the exact transcript. This is the follow-up to now what I just played now. Here's the follow-up. So Tom Lamas asks, okay, this is what he says, quote, I want to be clear because it sounds like there is a shift in immigration enforcement, that there's going to be a shift after Minneapolis. What should Americans expect going forward? President Trump. Well, one thing I say to my people, we do a good job and we don't get credit for it. I say they have to ask and they have to say, quote unquote, please. When a city is going to ask the mayor or the governor, I don't want to go and force ourselves into a city, even if their numbers are terrible. Like, for instance, I got a call from Jeff Landry, governor of Louisiana. He said, quote, we have a big problem. Could you go in and help us with, well, let's see, certain sections? I mean, to be honest with you, certain sections of the state beyond their famous, beautiful city, certain sections of the state. We have done not only New Orleans, we've done a really great job in Louisiana, but I was called. I want to be called. Chicago, we could solve the Chicago crime. Then Lamas says, so which cities are you headed to next? Trump, we have 5 cities that we're looking at very strongly, but we want to be invited. We will sometimes call the governors and say, are you going to invite us? Lamas, are they cities like Chicago, Philadelphia? Are these the cities? Trump, we could straighten out the crime in Chicago. We've already brought it down 25% just by being there. We could have Chicago be a safe city, just like D.C. is a safe city, just like all of these places that we've gone to. I look forward to it. I didn't campaign on that. I campaigned on law and order, but I didn't think I'd be going into individual cities and making them safe. So Trump then continues, saying we'll be announcing these 5 cities that we're going to be targeting for ICE raids very quickly. But we could do something as an example. So he's saying he wants to go into San Francisco, but he's not going to go unless specifically asked by the mayor. As an example, I was called by people in San Francisco. They said, quote, please, we have a Democrat mayor. He's trying very hard. You have friends of mine that live there. It's got crime problems. Would you let him do the job and not come in? Let's see how it works. So I said, look, I can do it much quicker, much faster. Don't forget, we removed criminals. We took over 2,000 hardcore criminals out of Washington, D.C. If we didn't do that, 2% of the people create 90% of the crime. Think of that, 2%. So he then says, we can give you safe cities, but you have to ask. We don't want to go and force ourselves into a city, even if their numbers are terrible. So, and the White House then further clarified, saying that they are now shifting to a new strategy called invitation only, an invitation only model or policy. Now, and I promise we're going to get the technical issues resolved, and we're going to play the direct cut so you can hear it straight from the president's lips, not just me reading from a transcript. To me, it is very obvious. This is not just a shift in tone or a softer touch or a slight, tweaking of the strategy. I think this is a 180-degree reversal. And I think it's done now a couple of things. The left is already popping champagne corks. On MS Now, on CNN, on the streets of Minneapolis, in Tim Walz's office, in Jacob Fry's office, in Mamdani's office, in Brandon Johnson's office, in Michelle Wu's office. They're saying, we won. We have won. You put enough bodies on the streets, you sacrifice enough people to be shot or killed, and the federal government will back down. And so now, essentially, we have sanctuary cities and sanctuary states who are openly defying federal immigration law, who are coddling violent, criminal, illegal aliens. And the president has essentially said, unless you ask us to come in, we're not going to go in. But they're still going to get all of their government money. They're still going to get all of their federal funding. So they now can decide which laws they want to follow, which laws they don't want to follow, and still continue. In other words, they can get the federal money out of being in our union, but they don't have to abide by many of the federal laws to be in our union. It is a horrible precedent. And more than that, I think it's now, think about it. If you're an illegal alien, I know what I would do. Get the hell out of a red state and go to a sanctuary blue state or a blue city. Why? Because unless the mayor capitulates, which they won't, you're safe. In fact, my prediction is there's probably going to be a surge of illegals going to Minneapolis, going to Chicago, going to New York, going to Boston, going to Portland, going to Los Angeles, because there ICE can't touch you. Because the mayors and the governors will not ask ICE to come. So you're going to see even more welfare fraud and even more illegals and even more violent criminal illegals. Okay, let me ask you. It is really the question now. Did Trump cave? Do you believe he's now betrayed a fundamental campaign promise? Or is this a brilliant strategic move on the part of Trump? It's a new strategy, maybe a strategy that will help him pull out a victory in the midterms. That's what many of his advisors are now saying. But he now says we will no longer do mass deportations or deploy ICE into sanctuary cities or sanctuary jurisdictions unless specifically requested by mayors and governors. Agree, disagree? Tommy in West Virginia. Thanks for holding, Tommy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Tommy?
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I really thought that Trump was referring to, in the end of that interview, about bringing in the National Guard. And maybe I'm mistaken. But if he's talking about the ICE agents, Trump right now is being a pragmatist. We've had 50 years in this country of every single pillar of the society of Marxists being infiltrated, whether it be the clergy, academia, the courts, the military, Hollywood, popular, the entertainment industry. And there's not going to be just one person that's going to give this country a much-needed enema. And Trump is doing everything he possibly can, but every time he turns around, he's got some federal judge that's just making up a BS excuse for him why he can't deport people. And if anybody listening to my voice in Kuhner country stays home in November of this year and doesn't vote, you're going to remind me of the idiots in the movie of Forrest Gump, when all of a sudden Forrest Gump stops running and says, I'm going home. And there's one clown in the background that goes, what do we do now? We're at a pivot point in this country. And what Trump has done with regards to getting rid of these slobs that Joe Biden invited in has been really something. And don't lose faith in this man. He's got people in the Republican Party like John Thune that are wishy-washy about reforming the voting laws in this country. And we know why Joe Biden and the Democrats brought in all these people for future voters. They want to deliberately change the demographics of this country so the conservative-minded person, whether he's black, Jewish, Vietnamese, white, or whatever, our votes get watered down. So for Christ's sakes, don't lose faith. And to reiterate the point, I think Trump is being a pragmatist. And he gets no quarter from the American media. The American media is made up of mostly white liberals. And how do I know this? I have two guys I went to high school with. One guy taught journalism up in New Hampshire. Another guy taught journalism at a private school in Norton, Massachusetts. They're both flaming liberals. And that's who's teaching these kids how to report the news. The ends justify the means. So please, for crying out loud, people, look at the big picture. Don't get discouraged.
Tommy, I'm voting in November. I'm going to urge everybody to vote in November. We can't let the Democrats take back power in the House, or God forbid, both the House and the Senate. It'll plunge our country into chaos, and it will paralyze and cripple Trump's presidency. I'm with you all the way. And Tommy, look, I know there's many people who are saying that Trump's being pragmatic. Trump's facing immense odds, powerful entrenched interests. The media is gunning for him. They're exaggerating and politicizing the shooting deaths of both Preddy and Renee Good, sensationalizing it. You've got these organized, paid, well-funded activists that are pouring into all of these cities, causing riots, and you've got this wall of opposition from the Democrats and from sanctuary city mayors and governors. So there's no question that this is trench warfare, and they're doing everything they can to block him and to obstruct him. My fear, Tommy, is this is now going to make the country even more divided, because I think what's going to happen if he fully implements his new strategy, this invitation-only model now, the red states are going to clean out all their illegals. I mean, it'll take a couple years, but they're going to clean out all their illegals. But the blue states won't. And if anything, I think you're going to see an internal migration. I mean, that's what I would do. Look, if I'm an illegal in Texas and, I get word from the grapevine, hey, Trump is not going to go into these sanctuary jurisdictions anymore, I'm off to California. I'm off to Massachusetts. I'm off to Illinois. I'm off to, wherever. I say, hey, he's not going to touch me there. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to see even more illegals surge into these, in the blue states, while the red states have less and less illegals. And that's only going to exacerbate and accentuate the very deep, now almost unbridgeable divide in this country. And I think, frankly, it sets a very bad precedent. That's my big fear, is that federal law now just does not apply. Now, look, to be fair to Trump, and I always want to be fair to him because I think he deserves it, this is going on for 20 years. We're paying for 20 years of open defiance by sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. And president after president after president looked the other way. But we thought this would change under Trump. And what we're seeing now, at least when it comes to the blue states, nothing's really going to change. They're going to continue to defy federal law. And there's a certain point where they're almost semi-seceding now. And look, I said this before, you don't want to abide by federal law. You don't want to enforce immigration law. You want to coddle these violent, vicious, brutal, illegal alien criminals. Then no federal money, no government money. But they're not cutting the federal funding. So they get the benefits of the union without the responsibilities of the union. And that's very bad. I'm telling you, that's, and it's going to spread. This is not going to stop. They've been emboldened. And mark my words, they're going to start going into the red states. What they realize now is if you can create incidents, if you can go into some of these blue cities in these red states and confront ICE and blockade and barricade and burn it down and pelt them with rocks and bricks and throw bodies on the line and get them to shoot a couple of these, so-called, protesters, these activists, these insurrectionists, they can chase ICE out of they can chase them out of city after city. Look, we just had the Grammys. They're not saying anymore, as they used to, ICE out of sanctuary cities. Now they're saying ICE out of America. Now they're saying abolish ICE. So as far as they're concerned, they think they have Trump on the run. They think they have the federal government on the run. And so, look, the one thing I've learned in life, Tommy, agree, disagree, appeasement doesn't work. I know Trump is trying to be responsible, statesmanlike, pragmatic. I understand that. One dead American for him is one too many. I understand that. I completely get it. But you've now appeased the criminal radical left. They're going to want more. This, I think, it's a half measure, and half measures rarely succeed. He would have been better off had he done nothing, or go, as I said, invoke the Insurrection Act, go heavy, come in there, arrest that insurrectionist mayor, arrest that insurrectionist treasonous governor, send in the military, lock these people up, and deport every single illegal alien. And say, we're going to do it in town after town, city after city, set an example. Either you go hard and you go heavy, or basically you back off. When you go halfway, it provoked massive resistance, and now Trump is backpedaling. And I don't know if it's going to work. I mean, we'll see. Time will tell. But we're clearly at an inflection point. And I can just speak from the heart, Tommy. I did not vote for this. I voted for the president to restore law and order and to deport every single illegal alien and to bring to heel these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. What he's essentially doing is he's saying, you're on your own. Okay, fine. Unless you ask, we're not sending in ICE. If I'm Michelle Wu, I'm feeling awfully good right now. If I'm Healy, I'm feeling awfully good right now. But anyway, agree, disagree. Tommy, thank you again. Always a thoughtful call. Nancy in Framingham. Thanks for holding, Nancy, and welcome.
Hello. Good morning.
Hi,
Jeff.
Nancy.
Hi. Good morning, Jeff. I think this is a horrible move. Number one, he should have invoked the insurrection. 1, 2, 3, and he wouldn't have had such a bad name against about him being heartless. The people wanted that. Then he should have gotten on TV, like I said before on your program, do a 15-minute chat like Roosevelt did during World War II to explain everything that is happening with immigration and affordability. That's what he should have done. I don't know who's advising him. I don't like this because to get the money and not deport them, you're going to lose. The Democrats are going to have it's going to be a bloodbath for the Republicans, and you have Republicans that will stay home in spite because they will not vote. But I'm going to vote. I'm going to hold my nose, and I'm going to hope and pray that he can campaign his way out of this. I don't think he can. I think as the mega movement, give us his telephone number and let's call him and tell him to go back down on this horrible decision that he's done.
Well, Nancy, I can just tell you this, okay? You can take this to the bank. There were two key people that really were influential in this new strategy, this invitation-only model that Trump has now unveiled. It was Susie Wiles, his chief of staff, who is the consummate pragmatist. And many MAGA America First people within the Trump administration can't stand her. They really can't stand her. But she overrode Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller, no, I'm not saying he's on the outs, but he's, he wants a crackdown. He wants to give no quarter. He said, we ran on this. We have to finish this. But Susie Wiles does not like Stephen Miller. She is the consummate sort of moderate. She's a very good manager. But in terms of her politics, this is Susie Wiles and Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is the one that said, hey, look, you can deport millions and millions of illegals. Do it in places like red states or even blue cities, but do it in places where ICE is welcomed, ICE is wanted, ICE will be reinforced by local and state law enforcement. Lindsey Graham was convinced him that look at the images on CNN. Look at the images on MS Now. Look at the evening news. They're killing you with this. Now, you see, Nancy, I agree with you on the fireside chats completely. Please don't get me wrong. But to me, what I find remarkable, even with him not having an effective communications team on this issue, or having an effective communications message on this issue, there's a new batch of polls out. They're shock polls. The American people still back Trump on this issue. No, they say we want you to go in everywhere and deport all of these, especially violent criminal illegal aliens. But even just all illegals, they still back him. They still support ICE. So his policy, contrary to what the media is trying to claim and the images that they're creating, his policy is still popular and backed by the American people. Again, I don't want to go back to my initial monologue, but it reminds me so much of Vietnam, where the elites were against the war. And you had this militant minority that kept protesting and getting all this attention. So it creates the perception, Nixon has lost the country. But he never did. Polls showed from the beginning of the war to the end of the war, the majority of the American people stood by our troops, stood by Richard Nixon. And it's a color revolution. And a color revolution has to control your mind. They have to persuade your mind. They have to make you think that you're no longer in the majority when you still are in the majority. So, yeah, I'm with you. I would definitely say, please reconsider. Look, I'm going to vote. You're going to vote. I'm sure most of Kuhner country is going to vote in November. But I'm telling you, I go online and, they're demoralized. They're deflated. These are Trump supporters. Many are angry. Now, maybe they're just venting, but they're saying, I'm staying home in November. Now, even if it's only true for 10 or 15%, that's the difference between winning and losing. That's the difference between the Democrats having a majority and still staying in the minority. So anyway, we'll see how all this plays out. Look, he just pivoted. He may pivot back again. Who knows? But as of now, all I can do is speak about today, 7:06, as I speak to you now. I don't like this. I didn't vote for this. I would be lying to you if I said I like this. I don't. Look, I respect Tommy. I respect people who, and I'm getting a lot of people emailing me saying, I agree with Trump. I want to hear from you. This is Kuhner country. Every side, everybody gets to be heard. I'm just giving you my honest opinion. I'm with you, Nancy. I think it's a bad move. And I think it's going to really hurt him in November. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. This could be a bloodbath. If his base stays home, he's screwed. Respectfully, he's screwed. Nancy, thank you very much for that call. Agree, disagree. Okay. By the way, to show you how the momentum now is on the anti-ICE left. Bad Bunny. I don't know if you saw this clown who was at the Grammys, who, by the way, sings in Spanish. He's from Puerto Rico. God bless him. Puerto Rico is a beautiful territory of the United States, but he can barely speak a word of English. He sings in Spanish. Now you're saying, well, why am I mentioning this, Jeff? What does this have to do with everything? He went on an anti-ICE tirade at the Grammys. Okay, with them yelling F ICE and, this is stolen land. Nobody's illegal on stolen land. Bad Bunny is headlining the halftime show for the Super Bowl on Sunday. So my family, Ashton and Grace, Ava, we're all going to be watching the Super Bowl. And I got to ask all of you, seriously, why should we have to watch Bad Bunny? Our team is in the Super Bowl, the New England Patriots. I want to watch the game. I want to root for the Pats. And now the NFL is going to ram down my throat this woke, anti-Trump, anti-ICE, radical leftist, and I can't even understand what this guy is saying because he only sings in Spanish. And so many in MAGA, many conservatives are saying that they're going to boycott the halftime show. And I asked Sandy, I said, Sandy, are you boycotting the halftime show? She said, you better believe it. I don't know about Mike. I think, Mike doesn't really care about the halftime show. He says he goes and eats and grabs a beer and, restocks, and then he comes back to watch the third quarter. But, I'm sure Mike, even if he's going to watch the show, would like to hear it in English. At least I understand what the guy's saying. So what I'm saying is, even here, okay, one of the most important cultural touchstones in our culture, right? The Super Bowl. The whole country's going to be watching the Super Bowl. Big halftime show. It's a big deal, big thing. They promote it like crazy. And who does the NFL bring? This anti-ICE social justice leftist warrior who doesn't even freaking sing in English. I mean, honestly, it's like a slap in the face. So I got to put up with this on top of everything else? You can't even take politics out of the freaking Super Bowl and the halftime show? So, yes, we're boycotting the halftime show at the Kuhner Casa, okay, at the Kuhner household. When the second quarter ends, click, it's off. And then half an hour later, because it's half an hour when it's the Super Bowl, 30 minutes later, click, I'm ready for the kickoff in the third quarter. So, I want to ask you, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Will you watch the Bad Bunny halftime show at the Super Bowl this Sunday? A, yes. B, no. My advice that if you do watch it, you got to use captions. You've got to use captions or bring a translator because you won't understand anything else the guy's saying. So A, yes, B, no. We're a no. The whole family is a no. Ashton's a no. Ava's a no. Grace is a no. Even Rocky is a no. I'm a no. But I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in National ER. And of course, you can vote via X. I'm always, like last night, active on X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, KUHNER, at the Kuhner Report. You like the music, huh? That's Bad Bunny. I'm not kidding. What we just played coming in, good job there, Mike. That's Bad Bunny. And apparently this is one of his most popular, if not, the most popular song. Mike tells me 80 billion with a B views. 80 billion. So that's what you're going to be hearing for 30 minutes. 1 billion. Well, Mike, how the hell did we go from 80 billion to 1 billion? You may have dyslexia. Okay, so sorry. So Mike is saying, sorry, it's not 80, it's 1 billion. He says even 1 billion is insane. That's true. That's a lot of views. That is a lot of views. So, Mike, do me a favor. Can you just play a little bit more of it just for another 10, 15 seconds? There's swears in it that you try, but You don't know if it's the clean version or the one with the swears because you don't speak Spanish. He's not sure whether there's a swear word. So, okay, well, and the poor Mike, he doesn't know because he doesn't speak Spanish. Because poor Mike was born and raised in New Hampshire. The part that we played did not have any swears, but if we continue playing, Mike doesn't know. Because, the poor guy's an American, he's a New England boy, he's a New Hampshire boy, born and raised in New Hampshire, went to college in Alabama, became a huge Crimson Tide fan, loves the Alabama, he's a super Alabama football fan, but loves the Patriots. And, the poor guy doesn't know if he should continue playing the song because he can't speak Spanish. He doesn't understand Spanish. So, but anyway, that's Bad Bunny. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very quickly, this is from 781. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470, 781. Jeff, I think Trump is onto something. He is showing the blue states they are going to have to live with the consequences of their decisions while the rest of us enjoy the benefits that come with deportations. This is not going to turn out well for the blue states. I think it's the ultimate way for Trump to prove he is right. Interesting. A lot of reaction on Bad Bunny. We're just going to be, throughout the whole show, we're just going to talk a little Bad Bunny. Because honestly, I can't stand the fact that this guy's doing the halftime show. Anyway, this is from 617. Jeff, yes, watch the football game, but at halftime, switch the channel so it will be reflected in the ratings. Then switch back to the game after halftime and resume watching. This will send a big message to advertisers, the network, and the NFL. So, in other words, a lot of you are telling me, no, don't turn the TV off, Jeff. Change the channel for 30 minutes and then come back and resume watching the game in the third quarter. 617-26, which is what I'm going to do then. 617-266-6868. Dane in Florida. Thanks for holding, Dane, and welcome.
Yes, Jeff. Okay, so as far as Bad Bunny, am I going to watch Bad Bunny? I want to watch Bad Bunny as much as I want a bad rash. Okay, and there's an alternative. You can go and turn the channel, excuse me, and watch Kid Rock and the other concert performers for halftime. They're doing a halftime show. I think they should all switch and go over to that, give that the ratings. Let the millions and millions of people go watch that. As far as Trump and this decision, this is probably one time in a million times I might disagree with you, Jeff. Not entirely, but here's the situation that I think. He is making a brilliant move, and the fact that all these people, okay, that are illegals, they're going to go, hey, let's go get some sanctuary, move to sanctuary city. We'll get some more free money. We'll get some of this. These cities are, I mean, they're clapping and they're cheering. I got news for them. You're going to self-destruct. These cities will self-destruct. They won't be able to handle the crime, the overbearing of financing being drained from them from all these illegals. And these people will move. They will go to where they think they can get the freebies. That's why they cross the border to come into the United States. So that's what's going to happen. They're going to self-destruct these cities. What tourist? They're going to lose tourist dollars. They're going to go in there. Who's going to go to Chicago, Minneapolis to visit? Not me. And not most common sense people. They're going to go somewhere like Florida where it's free. But Florida is working on it too, because I'll tell you something. There's a lot of illegals here. But guess what? They are getting rid of them, and they're getting them out of here, and they're arresting them and putting them on Alligator Alcatraz. Okay? So I think Trump here had to make the decision. The media is so corrupt, they're just going to keep reeling that. Now they got no argument. Now there's no TV that can watch guys being all rioting. What are they going to riot about? What are you rioting about? They're gone. Okay, so it eliminates that problem. I think in the long run, the most important thing, and I hope President Trump's people are listening, above all else, you have to get the voting. This is where the real crux of the matter is.
The SAVE
this
Act.
Is the core.
No, I hear you, Dane. No, I agree with you. The SAVE Act is huge, huge, huge. I can't overstate how huge it is. Dane, just super quick. You know, I'm listening to you. Look, again, very rational, very coherent. You're making an excellent argument. All I'm thinking is, well, yeah, but that's because, Dane, you're in a red state. You know, you're down there in Florida. You're in the Freedom State. You know who's getting screwed here? Me. I'm behind enemy lines. It's like the Berlin Wall. You're on the free side, and I'm on the communist side. And you're saying, well, yeah, all the illegals are going to be coming up your way, Jeff. And it's going to really put even more of a strain, say, on Boston or Massachusetts. But that's me, Dane. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, listen now. I just want to play a cut for you. You can hear, I read you the transcript of this new strategy, this invitation-only strategy that President Trump had unveiled in that interview with NBC News with Tom Lamas. Here is where he says, yes, look, he says, I love ICE. They're doing a great job. But from now on, I'm only going to send them where they're wanted. Roll cut 105, Mike.
So I want to be clear because it sounds like there is a shift in immigration enforcement here, that there's going to be a shift after Minneapolis. What should Americans expect going forward?
Well, one thing I say to my people, you know, we do a good job. We don't get credit for it. I say they have to ask and they have to say, please. When a city is
who has to ask and who has to say please?
Or the governor, I don't want to go and force ourselves into a city, even if their numbers are terrible. Like, for instance, I got a call from Jeff Landry, governor of Louisiana. He said, we have a big problem. Could you go in and help us with well, let's see, certain sections. To be honest with you, certain sections of the state, beyond their famous, beautiful city, certain sections of the state. We have done, not only in New Orleans, we've done a really great job in Louisiana, but I was called. I want to be called.
So, in other words, we have to be asked. Well, they have to ask. They have to request. So, Lamas, just to, to put an exclamation point on this new policy, Lamas says, well, what cities are you headed to next? And then Trump says, well, we've got 5 cities that we're looking at very strongly, but we have to be invited. If we're not invited, we're not going. Roll cut 106, Mike.
Which cities are you headed to next?
We have 5 cities that we're looking at very strongly, but we want to be invited. We will sometimes call the governors. And
are they cities like Chicago, Philadelphia? Are these the cities?
We could straighten out the crime in Chicago. We've already brought it down 25% just by being there. We could have Chicago be a safe city, just like D.C. is a safe city, just like all of these places that we've gone to. And I look forward. I didn't campaign on that. Yeah. I campaigned on law and order, but I didn't think I'd be going into individual cities and making them safe.
So basically saying I didn't think I'd have to go into Minneapolis or Chicago or New York and battle the sanctuary city mayors and governors and then be met with these rioters and protesters and obstructionists. And then we've got street battles. So he's saying, no, you want ICE? You want to get rid of these illegals? I'm happy to supply ICE, but we need total cooperation. You have to be completely on board. You're not on board? Forget it. We're not deploying ICE. So it's clearly a change. It's clearly a shift. It's a new strategy. To me, I think he caved. You know my position. Many of you think it's a brilliant, pragmatic retreat and maneuver on his part. So I want to hear from you. What do you make now of this new strategy? They will go to red states and only those blue cities and states that specifically ask for ICE and for mass deportations. 617-266-6868. Tom in Hudson. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Jeff, I think he ought to have a little change in strategy, but I do agree with you that he did cave. I think he ought to take out ICE and send in the IRS. Joe Biden hired army agents to check on us. I think most of these protesters are paying tax, are receiving money to protest. I don't think any of them are paying taxes on it. So I would send in the IRS. Also, I was watching the news this morning, and there was 2 articles that came up that irritated me. One, a federal judge says that he wants to stop all illegal immigrant arrests that are unwarranted. I don't think he has the authority. And the second is Mayor Wu come out and said that she wants to stop all illegal and unconstitutional arrest of migrants. I don't think she has the authority.
She doesn't. No, Tom, you're dead on. That judge doesn't have the authority. Nobody elected that judge president of the United States. The supremacy clause is crystal clear. It's black letter law. When it comes to immigration, the federal government is supreme. In fact, and the Supreme Court has ruled on this, not just repeatedly, recently. So state and local law enforcement and state and local officials, authorities, cannot interfere with the federal government in immigration enforcement, period, full stop. So the judge is lying. The judge has no authority to do what she's doing. It's a rogue judge. And Michelle Wu, again, this is insurrection. And what she's saying is, you come to Boston and you will never be arrested under my sanctuary policies. And ICE is out. We are not going to allow ICE to operate whatsoever within the jurisdiction of Boston. Healy now has just came out and said Massachusetts is a full-blown sanctuary state. ICE will not be allowed to operate anywhere in Massachusetts. This is South Carolina 1861. This is nullification. That's what this is. This is, to me, as I said, sedition. And what Trump is saying is, okay, you guys don't want us, we're not coming. And then you deal with the consequences of all these illegals. All of the crime, all of the welfare, all of the abuse, all of the chaos, the overcrowding, the congestion, I mean, everything. Then it's on you. Don't come crying to me. So that's his new policy. Look, I'm going to be honest with you, Tom. To me, either we're one country or we're not. Either we're one nation or we're not. Either the federal law and law in general applies to everybody or it doesn't. Now, look, Boston's going to become much more dangerous. You can take it to the bank. The massive fraud that's already being uncovered, you're going to see even much more fraud. Who's going to pay for that, Tom? It's going to be you. It's going to be me. Who is the ones that are going to be put at risk here? It's going to be you and me. It's going to be law-abiding American citizens who live in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, or if you happen to live in Boston itself. So I understand politically why Trump is doing this, but you're leaving fellow Americans like us. We're twisting in the wind. For me, ICE is not some political tactic to win votes in the midterms. ICE to me is either we have a country or we don't. We have borders or we don't. I don't want to live in a lawless sanctuary state. I don't want to live in a state with illegals running rampant, abusing my taxpayer money, stealing my taxpayer money, and God forbid, putting me and my wife and my children in danger. Here, look, I'll just give you a small example, okay? Small. I could do this every day. I could do the same show every day. Examples of fatalities, deaths caused by illegals. There was an illegal alien truck driver admitted in by Joe Biden. He plowed his freaking truck into a family. They were in a vehicle. It was an Amish family. A father, a mother, and their 2 kids. You have to see the car. There was nothing left of it. He hit that thing head on at high speed. 4 Americans dead. Dead. They never had a chance. Now, this is happening. I'm just talking about accidents on the road. I'm not talking the murders and the rapes and the pedophilia and the child molesting and the drug trafficking, and I'm let all that go, okay? For a beautiful Amish family, minding their own business, law-abiding Americans, what was their crime? They were driving on the road, and they got completely mowed down. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, President Trump now announces a new strategy on mass deportations and deploying ICE agents. He says they will only go to blue states or blue cities, sanctuary jurisdictions, if and only if they are asked, specifically requested by the mayors and governors of those cities and states. Is Trump caving, or is this now a brilliant, pragmatic, strategic maneuver? 617-266-6868. Okay, very quickly, reaction from both sides on this issue. This is from Caitlin on Messenger. Jeff, I can't trust my daughter to walk to school alone. And she's in the Boston area. I actually fear it. So as far as I'm concerned, Trump has turned his back on the state of Massachusetts, on our children. Like you say, the migrants are going to migrate to every blue state in our nation. Interesting. This is from 617. Jeff, if mayors and governors are obstructing the federal government with regard to arresting illegal immigrants, why aren't they themselves arrested for obstruction? I'm with you. That's why I would have arrested Jacob Fry. I would have arrested him a month ago. But anyway, that's me. Okay, let me just one more and then go right back to the phone lines. 617-266-6868. If you want to text, 70470. 70470. This is a very intelligent text message from 603. Jeff, I feel this maneuver by Trump is a strategic response to a new diabolical tactic that the left just employed last week. The administration is well aware of the Podesta plan, and we know as it pertains to ICE and deportations, that plan relies on dead bodies, right up to the point of a mass casualty event to turn public opinion against the administration by playing on the public's sympathies. Now, this next part is completely true. I've been seeing story after story. It is disgusting and it is horrifying. Listen to this. Last week, the left in America started to deploy school children, even in kindergarten and pre-K, as well as teenagers in high school, to go out and protest ICE raids. And just like clockwork, the leftist school administrators let these students out of school and organized them to go demonstrate. This happened in many states. This sadistic political party, the Democrats, are not above getting kids killed to get their way. And they're not above staging a false flag event where a bunch of students get mowed down to do it. We've seen how the media has worked overtime to foster public outrage over leftist provocateurs getting killed. Can you imagine how much worse that would be if you now had dead children and teenagers? The administration is well aware of this tactic, and I think they're trying to outmaneuver it. Now, that is a very interesting point. That is a very, very interesting point. Because what I did notice, and honestly it turned my stomach, was you're talking 4 or 5-year-old kids. You know, I'm talking kindergartners, pre-K, never mind elementary school kids, high school kids. and they're being given placards and signs and being told to hate ICE and say abolish ICE, ICE out, and then they're letting them, not the kindergartners, but the middle school and high school students, yeah, walk out, go to a demonstration, go protest ICE, go up and challenge ICE agents. And I'm thinking, what, you want dead kids now? You want to start a confrontation, create an incident where it's not professional provocateurs and paid professional agitators that are now getting shot and killed. No, you want teenagers, you want kids to get killed. You people are sick. You're sick. Now, one last point. In Boston, okay, this is already happening. In Boston, they're targeting, pardon the pun, they're targeting Target stores. They're really angry at Target, because their headquarters is out in that part of the country, and so they want to send an economic message. But furthermore, because Target has been criticized for allowing ICE agents to go in and use their bathroom. And so they want Target to have a policy whereby they refuse to serve ICE agents, not just that they can't buy anything, but they can't use the restroom. And so what they've done is there's bus after bus after bus, $25, $30, $40 an hour, paid protesters. And apparently now it's come out, some of them as far away, listen to this, San Francisco, or as my friend Dr. Michael Savage calls it, San Francisco. We're thousands of miles away. They're being bussed into Boston to go and protest in front of Target stores in the Boston area. This is not this is not this is not grassroots. This isn't some authentic, organized, uprising against ICE. This is pure, as they say, astroturf. It's artificial, it's fake, it's phony, it's paid. And then, of course, there are the cameras right there. The media plays along. Oh, look at these protests in front of this Target. Boy, the opposition to ICE, it's spreading everywhere. And it's the same 100, 200 protesters. It's like a band that goes on the road. They just take their act on the road. So they're up in Maine. Okay, mission accomplished. Put them on a bus. Get them to Boston. Okay, mission accomplished. Go on down to Providence. Hey, we'll be in New York City in no time. 617-266-6868. Janine in North Carolina. Thanks for holding, Janine, and welcome.
Oh, Jeff, I got to tell you, I have to disagree with you on this Super Bowl situation. And I'll just do a quick rundown. Do you remember every probably 5 to 10 years, I consider it to be a milestone. And do you remember 2016 was a 50-year milestone? Do you remember who the halftime act was at that time? I'll give you a name, Beyonce. Now, the Super Bowl was held in, I guess, San Francisco at Levi Stadium. I think what they should have done was make a strategic move. It's a 50-year anniversary. You could have had acts from around the San Francisco Bay Area, for example, Metallica and Journey. But what did they decide to do? They decided to make it political. Black Lives Matter. And I think that's the time it started, probably a little bit before then. But I'm getting tired of watching football, baseball, basketball with the kneeling, this and that. I come to realize we need to realize that we pay their salaries by their sponsors, buying tickets, posters, merchandise. And with this recent Billie Eilish comment that she made about stolen land, well, I'm on a piece of property that I don't even own, and it's probably no bigger than a postage stamp, while she's living on a piece of property that's probably as big as a football stadium. I am sick to the back teeth of these stars, and I'm tired of paying money to go watch a movie or a concert. Well, I haven't been to a concert in years. The last concert I went to was Fleetwood Mac. Now you got the Oscars, the Grammys, the Golden Globes. Every time it's the same thing. How come they don't say that when a Democrat's in office? They never say that. What are your thoughts?
Well, Janine, look, I agree with you. This is one of the things that I think is a sickness in our society. And it's going to destroy us if we don't stop it. It's part of this national divorce that's taking place between the red states and the blue states, which is under Democrats and under the radical left. They politicize everything. I don't know what's not politicized anymore. So you watch a Super Bowl game, they have to either give you a Black Lives Matter message, or now they have to give you a, basically ICE sucks message. Okay, or pardon being vulgar, but at the Grammys, F ICE. F ICE. Okay? So that's the message you're going to get at the Super Bowl at the halftime by getting this guy. Whether he says anything or not is irrelevant. That's the message by having a guy like Bad Bunny, because Bad Bunny has been so pronounced on this issue, so high profile. He's an anti-ICE activist. And by the way, he's another one that pushes this lie, this smear, this defamation that we're on stolen land and no one is illegal on stolen land. So they're politicizing the Super Bowl. They're politicizing the Grammys. They politicize the Oscars. What don't they politicize? You can't barely go see a movie today without getting some left-wing political message. You can't watch a TV show without getting some left-wing political message. In fact, I don't even think most people know this. And Mike, I know we have the call log. I promise. Just 30 more seconds. People don't know this. At the Grammys, do you know who was there? People are going to be shocked. The first time ever a Supreme Court justice attended the Grammys, Ketanji Brown Jackson. And she didn't just attend. She was caught on tape. You can look it up. Don't take my word for it. When they were saying F ICE, she got up and clapped and cheered. When Billie Eilish said, no one is illegal on stolen land, and then said F ICE, she got up. Ketanji Brown Jackson got out of her seat and started clapping, like, woo, woo, like cheering and clapping. Now, by the way, Supreme Court justices are not supposed to make political comments ever. They're not supposed to engage in any political activities ever. This is a Supreme Court justice? And not just this is a Supreme Court justice, but that America is an illegitimate, racist country that doesn't have the right to exist, and that ICE, F ICE, that ICE should be abolished, and that we should have forever open borders and allow the entire world to just come into the United States, and this woman sits on the freaking bench of the highest court in the land? And she's supposed to be, by the way, judging cases, dealing with immigration and dealing with ICE, and she's partying with all these anti-ICE activists? Now, this is, by the way, it's against the law. She should be impeached and removed from the Supreme Court. Even the Supreme Court now has become politicized. So what institution in America have the left and not, A, not ruined, and B, not politicized? They pull education, the schools, healthcare. They have DEI now in healthcare. And I'm looking like, you mean to tell me they're going to do open heart surgery, and what matters to them is not the competence of the person doing the operation, but whether the person is white, black, I don't know, lesbian, transgender, whatever, a one-legged Pacific Islander. You people are insane. So there's nothing in American life anymore that they have not ruined and politicized. So, Janine, I'm with you all the way. That's why at the halftime, turn that dial. If we all turn that dial, then advertisers are going to say, no, we don't want Bad Bunny. Don't ever do that again. Why? We lost our shirts. Turn that dial and don't put it back on the channel until 30 minutes later. Teach them a lesson once and for all. We've had it. Shut up and sing. Just do that. Shut up and sing. And if you're in an English-speaking country like us, speak in English. Sing in English. You know, hey, if he's in Puerto Rico, it's a Spanish-speaking territory, sing in Spanish. But when you're singing at the halftime show, I don't think I'm asking for too much that people can understand what the guy's singing. I mean, and Roger Goodell, that clown, the commissioner, approved this? He's a woke idiot. I'm telling you, he's a woke idiot. But as I like to say, let that go. Okay, thank you so much for that call, Janine. I'm 5 minutes late. Forgive me. Kuhner's call log, caller of the week. Take it away, Mike.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Ben.
When I was a child, I would go, they would give us food coupons or food stamps. When I would have to pay at a cash register with food stamps when I was a child, because my mom would send me to the corner store to buy some bologna or a loaf of bread with the food stamps, I would see people pay with money, and I would have to pay with food stamps. I felt ashamed. I don't know where the shame came from, but I felt ashamed as a child. I started working when I was 9 years old for $1 a day, from 7 in the morning to almost 7 o'clock at night in a ranch. So, you know, food stamps and welfare is good for those who need it. Even if you do need it as a child, welfare, it's become a stay down. You're going to get food stamps and you're going to stay down because that's where we want you. I knew that was wrong as a child, and I was not going to fall into that trap. Now, I heard somewhere where it takes 3-4 generations to get out of poverty. I'm already out of poverty because, you know, I work. I'm working right now. You don't work, you don't eat. You know, it's that simple. And that's been my mentality all my life. I don't miss a day of work. I have to be dying to not work. But the main person that I see is responsible for all this fraud is Obama, when he took that safety net or check off.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. That's pretty much Kuhner country right there. We work. I mean, really. The left organizes and protests, and they get some rich billionaire to pay for them. And we just, you know, we do the essential, we do the work that needs to be done to keep this country moving. And, you know, and all we ask for is, can you just give us a freaking Super Bowl without Bad Bunny? That's all. We don't even care if the entertainment is garbage. Can we at least just understand it? Can you have it in English? That's all. Okay? I mean, am I asking for too much? 617-266. I don't care. Get some washed up over the hill rocker. You know what? I don't care. At least, I think I can make out what he's saying. No, instead they give me Bad Bunny. The only good thing is when he's ranting and railing against ICE, you have no idea what he's saying because it's in Spanish. 617-266-6868. Bob in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Take my call.
Hi,
hey,
Bob.
as far as the halftime show at the Super Bowl, there hasn't been a good one since Janet Jackson was on with... So I haven't watched it since.
With that, let's say, wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah, right. That's not why I called. I'm 100% for what Trump is doing, and I think this will expose these liberal Democrats more than ever after the poop hits the fan. You know what I'm trying to say?
Well, look, let's just take Michelle Wu, okay? Just to bring it local for a second. You know, think about it. If she wants ICE to go away, all she has to do, it's really simple, is cooperate with ICE and say, look, okay, who are you looking for? Oh, these violent, dangerous criminal illegals? Okay, well, we have them in our, jails and in our prisons, so why don't you go pick them up there? Oh, okay, we let them out. Okay, well, here is their last known address. Here is where we believe he's receiving or she's receiving food stamps. whatever benefits. So most likely they're going to be in that house, in that street, in that neighborhood. So why don't we do this, say, I don't know, at 11 o'clock in the morning. The kids are at school. There are not many people around. We'll give you some local law enforcement backup in case some stupid protesters show up. You guys go in, grab that person out, and, within a month or two, you've got all the criminal illegal aliens out of Boston, ICE leaves, and it's over. And by the way, your streets are infinitely safer. You've got dangerous criminals off the streets. But no, they want to protest ICE. They want to obstruct ICE. They don't want to hand over the criminals, whether they're in the jails, in the courtrooms, or in the neighborhoods. So what's going to happen? You're going to get even more crime. And I think Trump is basically saying, okay, you want the criminals? You get the criminals. Now, and I agree with you, Bob, it's a form of jiu-jitsu. He's basically telling them, you're going to now live with the full consequences. And this time, the people of Massachusetts are going to see, for example, the difference between them and New Hampshire. You're going to compare and contrast. Well, the red states are cleaning out all of these vile illegal alien criminals. And the streets are safer. The murder rates, the crime rates are much lower. And guess what? So much less welfare fraud and abuse. So they're prospering while we're becoming third world hellholes. So I get what the strategy, it's a very smart strategy. Mike's like, it's like, Jeff, it's kind of catchy. He's like, I've never listened to Bad Bunny before, but I got to say, I hear la la, and Mike says he kind of likes it. I mean, he doesn't understand a single word the guy's saying. It could be F you. I mean, I don't know what I just played over the air. So Mike says that when he hears that, he thinks of himself sitting down at a beach. Mike said the Bahamas. I'm thinking more Puerto Rico or Mexico, Mike. Or the Dominican Republic. You know what I mean? But anyway, so, Mike, the sense I get from you is I think the way you're falling in love here with Bad Bunny, you're going to watch the halftime show. So halftime is a bathroom break and for food and beer. I got you, Mike. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let's go to Gardner in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Gardner, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Hey, thanks for taking the call. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Gardner.
Yeah. I'm very interested in this conversation about Trump's change in tactic. And if I could, I just, sort of a scholarly point of view, just ask that maybe anybody listening, take the opportunity to do two things. One would be to look into the Constitution and look up Article 4, Section 4, and call it up, read it out loud, and compare that to what Donald Trump just said about the invitation to go into the cities or states. Then look up do a word search on the Constitution and look for the word immigration. Not naturalization. Those are two different things. Immigration. You'll find you won't find the word. And so when we talk about the Supremacy Clause pertains to things that are actually in the Constitution. So, for example, if Sotomayor were to be the majority on the Supreme Court and she were to come up with a number of people to vote with her to support something that ran completely counter to the Constitution, say, for example, reading an immigration policing power into the Constitution that actually isn't there, people might find it intellectually, maybe not politically problematic because they might not be able to get enough votes to change that, but they might find it intellectually problematic. So I would just ask, as we look at this change for Donald Trump, if maybe you could open another tab and open up and read off Section 4, Article 4, Section 4, and then do a word search for the word immigration, and then compare that to Donald Trump's policy. I think you'll see that he's actually conforming more closely. And, of course, the Insurrection Act is an act, not an amendment to the Constitution, so it's inferior to anything that's in the Constitution. It's an interesting time. I'm not going to win any political battles on this.
No, I understand that, Gardner. But look, let's take it out of the ivory tower for a second, and let's just give a concrete example. Massachusetts is a sanctuary state. New Hampshire isn't. Now, does Massachusetts have the right? Okay, does the state have the right? Does the governor and the mayor of Boston have the right to allow, say, Aragua, one of the most dangerous, violent, transnational criminal gangs in the world, to bring them into Massachusetts and then have them float over, which is what they do, cross over into New Hampshire, where they're dealing drugs, fentanyl, cocaine, they're trafficking human beings, they're committing all kinds of crimes, and that's resulting in untold deaths in New Hampshire. So if you want every state to have their own so-called immigration policy, well, then we're not a country. What defines a nation are its borders and its national sovereignty. And if you live in a federal system, as we do, that the federal law applies to everybody, no matter where they live. So why should New Hampshire have to suffer for the insane policies of Massachusetts? What's your argument to that?
Well, I understand that people could see that as very problematic, but you can only go with what is written in the Constitution. So I would ask you to call up. No.
Again, but I'm asking you in the real world. I don't want to get into semantics. I'm asking you because that's effective. It's anarchy. What you're advocating for is the Articles of Confederation. What you're basically saying is that we're not really a union. We're not really a country. We're just a collection instead. Then it was 13 states. Now it's a collection of 50 states. But that's what we are. Well, no. If you want to have that, then let New Hampshire be independent, and they can police their borders, and they can prevent Aragua then from forcibly coming into New Hampshire. But that's why immigration falls under the federal government. Now, my problem with Trump is he's basically now said to the blue states what the South wanted in the lead up to the Civil War, which is we get to pick and choose what laws we follow and what laws we don't follow. If we want to nullify federal laws, we can. Okay, let me ask you. Trump now has announced a major new strategy or a strategy shift. It's an invitation-only approach when it comes to deploying ICE agents in sanctuary cities or sanctuary states. And, of course, with mass deportations, he now says, red states, you want them? We're going to deport every illegal alien you want. But in blue states and blue cities, especially sanctuary cities and states, we will only send ICE in if there is a specific request. As Trump put it, they have to, quote unquote, ask, and with a please. And it's got to be in writing. Otherwise, if Michelle Wu does not ask, I'm just giving Boston as an example, then ICE will not come into Boston. If Healy does not ask, they will not come into Massachusetts. The same ditto for New York City, ditto for Chicago, ditto for LA, ditto for Portland or Minneapolis. So my question to you, is this the white flag of surrender? Did Trump just cave and reverse himself and essentially betray one of his fundamental campaign promises? Or is this a smart, pragmatic, strategic maneuver in the face of massive opposition? 617-266-6868 is the number. My email inbox is, they're just coming in fast and furious. The text line is on fire. People are messaging the Kuhner man. It's like a heavyweight battle. It's back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. So let me just give you a taste. This is from a 516. Jeff, this is absolute genius on the part of President Trump. What he is now doing is he is taking the Cloward Piven strategy and he is now applying it to the blue states. Let them keep all of the illegals. Let the illegals migrate to them. This will overwhelm their financial system, their economic system, their crime rates. It will break and bankrupt the blue states, while the red states will get rid of every single illegal alien. He just broke these blue states, and they don't even know it. Interesting. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, this is from 508. Jeff. Joe Biden won the 2024 election after all. The invasion is being consolidated now. This is a major cave on the part of Trump. And now we can say Joe Biden really won the 2024 election when everything is said and done. So there you go. So it's a surrender, a betrayal. Really, Joe Biden effectively won the 2024 election because most of his illegal aliens will get to stay in the United States, especially and obviously these big blue states, while others are saying Trump is dealing with reality. And now he's making these blue states and sanctuary jurisdictions live with the consequences of their actions. 617-266-6868. Where do you stand? Sal in Wakefield. Thanks for holding, Sal, and welcome.
Let's be honest, Jeff, like we're in the confessional, like you like to say. Trump won 3 presidential elections with the mandate of illegal immigration cracking down. When he came down that escalator in 2015, that's what he started with, and that started to build the movement. And that's why MAGA became MAGA. And it's basically, you know, everything else. We want lower taxes. We want lower gas prices, food. But if nothing else, crack down on illegal immigrants because it's affecting everything. It's affecting our healthcare system, affecting apartments. You can't get a 2-bedroom apartment for under $2,400. You used to be able to get, not that long ago, you could get a 2-bedroom apartment for $1,300, $1,500. It's affecting everything. It's a mandate. He won the popular vote. He won the Electoral College after everything they've done to him since 2015 when he came down that escalator. They've tried to ruin him, and yet still he won 3 elections, 16, 20, and 24. Let's be honest, he won in 2020.
Yes. No question. Yes. Sal, you're building up to your big point. Go ahead, my friend.
Well, like I said, okay, you want the criminals out, okay, but we voted for a crackdown on illegal immigration. Like I said, it's affecting everything. Look at in Massachusetts. What did we spend in 4 years under Biden? Well, they won't, even though we voted to have everything audited. They won't do that. But we know billions of dollars on illegals being here. Our taxpayer dollars. We're all going to work every day to pay taxes for illegals, to house illegals, to feed illegals, free health care. This is crazy. The fact that the left, the radical left now, if you vote Democrat, you got to be crazy. Now they're going to the boards and fighting for illegal immigration. ICE, they're a part of our law enforcement to get rid of illegal aliens. And now they've got nuts, crazy people thinking that that's a bad thing now. The left has gone so far to the left and radical. It's unbelievable. It's crazy what they've been able to do.
Sal, to bring it full circle, what do you think now of Trump's new strategy? I take it by the way you're talking, you're against it, correct?
Absolutely. So what does that do? What does that do for Massachusetts? What does that do for us? Because Healy and that nut Wu, the mayor Wu, we're a sanctuary state and city of Boston. So, with doing this, isn't it going to make illegals just flock to the blue states and make it even worse in the blue states?
No question. No question. A lot worse. Because I'm telling you, look, I understand Texas is a red state and Florida is a red state, but Texas has a lot of illegals. Florida has a lot of illegals. I'm just giving those two states as an example. Well, after this, if I'm an illegal in Texas or Florida, either I go west to California or I go El Norte, as they say. I go up north. Personally, I'd come to... The only thing about Massachusetts is the weather, right? The winter. Okay, that's it. I'm telling you, that's it. Otherwise, to me, if you're an illegal, you're crazy. You're crazy if you don't come to Massachusetts. Who's going to give you benefits like this? Who's going to give you... We give them everything. Plus $2,000 cash spending money every single month. To me, you're nuts if you don't come to Massachusetts. Okay, now California, they're close. I mean, they give a lot of good benefits. But you're right. We're going to get flooded with illegals. Now, maybe that's the long-term, strategy is just, I want to break these blue states. In other words, I'm going to show them the full consequences of their actions. And the people are going to realize, okay, this is who you voted for. This is what you voted for. Well, now you're going to get it good and hard. Okay, so I get it, Sal. But the thing is, there are millions of people like you and me. Like, we're the ones getting screwed. And we're Americans. In fact, Sal, let me ask you this, and I want to ask everybody this. This new strategy, this shift, this invitation-only model, is this going to encourage conservatives or law-abiding taxpayers to flee blue states? Are you thinking now of leaving Massachusetts because of this? I'm just curious, Sal.
Well, at the moment, work-wise, and I've got children and grandchildren here. But of course, it's always in the back of your mind. I mean, I think about New Hampshire, sure, but New Hampshire's even going a little crazy. Let's be honest. And Jeff, while you were talking, I was thinking of another thing. I mean, I think it was the last election we were able to vote on illegals getting license. I think that was 2020. Do you really believe? I find it crazy to believe that a majority of Massachusetts people,
there's no even a majority of Massachusetts citizens, residents. 617-266-6868 if you want to be part of the show. All right, lines. To say they're blazing is an understatement. That radioactive, nuclear, they're on fire. Joe in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Joe, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Joe.
My beef with the Republicans is this, that we don't fight like they fight. They won this PR battle in Minneapolis because of the paid protesters and the busing them in and the pre-printed signs. Why can't we have the guy from Overstock or the guy who founded Home Depot? Why can't he print up some signs, pay some of our people to take off from work $100 an hour and bust them in and say, we love ICE and uphold our borders and law matters, and have them everywhere that ICE goes clapping and cheering for ICE and just applauding them?
Joe, that's a great point. In other words, fight fire with fire. Joe, Joe, I promise I'm going to give you the last word on this. What I've noticed over my 56 years on this earth is the Democrats hate this country more than we love this country. Obviously we love our country. You love our country. I love our country. I know the listeners do. But it just seems that, it's true what Newt Gingrich, his famous saying, Democrats play smash mouth football. We play badminton. I mean, to give them their due. I mean, look at them. They lost the White House. They lost Congress. They lost the Supreme Court. So they're not in control of any branch of government. They're completely in the minority. On an issue, illegal immigration and the border, that Trump won and that an overwhelming majority support the president. So they're a minority, not just politically in terms of power, but even on this issue. They're on the wrong side of this issue. And yet, Look at this. They have us on the run. I mean, they take it to the streets. They shut down traffic. They set up barricades. They smash up hotels. They attack ICE agents. They throw rocks. They throw bricks. They pay their organizers, their agitators. They bust them in from, all parts of the country. Street to street fighting. They don't stop. They stalk ICE. They're willing to sacrifice. I mean, not themselves because they're a bunch of hypocrites, but as the Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan, said, you need to put your bodies on the line. Basically saying, look, we need martyrs. We need people who are willing to go to the hospital, better yet die. In other words, you will be cannon fodder for our color revolution. And they're not afraid. They're not afraid of violence. They're not afraid of confrontation. They're not afraid of taking it to the brink. And look, I have to say, they do have the entire media in their pocket. And that's a very very powerful propaganda weapon and a very powerful propaganda tool. So that's a big help for them. Okay, that, to be fair, that's a huge advantage. But still, I mean, they fight like tigers. And this has been Trump. Trump is a former Democrat. He was a Democrat for most of his life. By the way, so was Reagan. Okay, Reagan was a former Democrat. And to me, they were always the two most successful Republican presidents. Whatever you think of them now on this issue, you know where I stand. But what I'm saying is why? And they both say, well, no, we fight like Democrats. Well, why were you successful? Because we fight like Democrats. Say what you want. Just stand back. I think Trump is very funny. I think he's very witty. I think he's much wittier and funnier than, Schumer or Elizabeth Warren or Hakeem Jeffries or any of these other idiots, Bernie or whatever. But just think about it for a second. He's verbally as aggressive as the Democrats are. Now, it drives the media crazy because he's giving them a taste of their own medicine. But, Schumer's running around calling the SAVE Act Jim Crow 2.0. They're running around the streets of Minneapolis and on CNN and everywhere else. Nazism, fascism, Hitler. So, two idiots, two woke anti-ICE idiots get shot and killed by ICE agents. And suddenly now, according to the left, we're living in a Nazi fascist dictatorship. And this is, Adolf Hitler. Two. And frankly, it was their fault. Okay? It was clearly justified. And no, we're living in a fascist state. This has got to change. And then the White House is all worried, and Susie Wiles is worried, and Lindsey Graham is calling Trump, and oh my God, look at the optics. This looks horrible. So from two dead bodies, they turned us into the second coming of Nazi Germany. Okay, just think about this. So Trump is the only one that rhetorically, verbally, he gives as good as he gets. Okay, Reagan was the same. I mean, he had his own style that was different. But he's like, no, I'm not taking this. Why should I take this? So, to me, that's, but anyway, we don't fight like Democrats. We don't think like Democrats. We're not as evil as Democrats. Obviously, we're not as depraved as Democrats. But the thing about Democrats, they're like the Bolsheviks. They will go to the end. Now, they tried to break up this country before. To me, there's such clear similarities now between the 1850s and 1860 and 1861 and today. They took it to the brink. And when a shot was fired on Fort Sumter, Lincoln fired back. Lincoln had people think it was inevitable. The Civil War was not inevitable. There was tremendous Union sentiment, even within Lincoln's cabinet, to say, hey, to them, if the backward slave states of the South, which are not industrial like us in the North, they don't have hardly any manufacturing, any industry, okay, they're tied to agriculture and basically picking cotton and other crops. Hey, if these backward Southerners with their slaves, if they want to go, let them go. I mean, that I'm telling you was a very strong sentiment. We're going to die to keep them in the Union? Let them go. And Lincoln said, no, I'm not letting him go. Because to me, that's a betrayal of the Revolution of 1776, of the Constitution, of our founding, of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and James Madison and Benjamin Franklin and Alexander Hamilton and the greatest republic in the history of God's green earth. And he said, no, they're going to be met steel with steel, will with will. And, Lincoln won. Look, Tim Walz, I can play you the cut, literally compared Minneapolis to Fort Sumter. He said, this is our Fort Sumter, meaning in the battle over illegals, illegal immigration, sanctuary cities, the border enforcement. He goes, this is our Fort Sumter. He openly said this. For us, this is like the Civil War. And I look at Trump. I didn't like the pullback. I didn't like Bovino being thrown under the bus. I think he did nothing wrong. I'm sorry. I'm just calling it the way I see it. I don't like apologizing for the deaths of Preddy and Renee Good. I'm sorry. They acted stupidly and they paid the price. I don't think ICE was to blame or Border Patrol at all. I'm sorry. I blame the left for the death of Nicole Good and Alex Preddy. The Democrats, Fry and Waltz and the Democrats and the media have blood on their hands. They told them to take it to the streets. They told them to confront ICE. They told them to interfere and obstruct law enforcement in legitimate law enforcement operations, and they did. And one idiot carried a loaded gun. So you're asking for trouble, you're going to get trouble. I'm sorry. Okay? But that's me. So I didn't like any of it. I don't like 700 immigration officers already unilaterally being pulled out. To me, it sends a bad message. You can push Trump around. That in the end, if you push and push and push, and if you're violent enough and revolutionary enough and fanatical enough, that the federal government will back down. And now we haven't just ceded Minneapolis. Let's be frank. As the French would say, entre nous, among us. We've ceded California. We've ceded all of Minnesota. We've ceded Illinois. We've ceded Massachusetts. We've ceded New York. We've ceded Oregon. We've ceded Washington. We've ceded Rhode Island. We've ceded Connecticut. We've ceded Maine. We've ceded Vermont. Because now the message is clear. Don't ask for ICE. ICE is not coming. So let's ring the dinner bell to every single illegal alien. Come on down. What this is going to do, it is going to fortify and entrench, further deepen, quote unquote, sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. And by the way, I don't like using that term because they're illegitimate terms. There's no such thing as a sanctuary city. There's no such thing as a sanctuary state. It would be like you, Joe, saying your home is a sanctuary home. Really, let's pick and choose what laws we want to follow. I don't know about you, Joe. I don't want to pay taxes. So I don't care what they say about federal income tax. No, I live in a sanctuary home. I'm sorry. It's a sanctuary home. So I don't pay taxes. Bye. What, you think the government's going to buy that? You think the government would ever allow and should allow? So some homes, they pay taxes. Some homes, they don't pay taxes. Some people want to abide by the law. Some people don't want to abide by the law. Here, I have a sanctuary car. You have a sanctuary car. Nah, I'm not going to stop here at the red light. Nah, I'm not going to stop at the stop sign. Nah, it's a sanctuary car. Well, okay, if in Rentham enough people like Jeff Kuhner don't want to abide by the traffic laws, well, it's a sanctuary, and what can we do? You don't have civilization. You don't have a society. You don't have a country. I think this is a very bad precedent. Now, do I trust Trump? Some ways, yes. Do I think if he needs to reverse course, he will? Do I think he's trying to politically outmaneuver the Democrats? Yes. But I'm telling you, I see nothing good from this. I want to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Honest to God, I don't think I am. Final word to you, Joe.
Jeff, respectfully, when you say the left hates America more than we love America, you're wrong. It's us Americans that enlist in the military. My uncle, my grandfather, my brother, they died for this country. And they did it with the left didn't volunteer. The left isn't becoming ICE agents. We're putting our lives on the line because we love America. So don't say that the left hates it more than we love it. We love the hell out of it.
Oh, no, that's true. No. Joe, then I misspoke. No, you're right. And I promise I'll give you the last word. No. Obviously, they're the patriots who fight and die, the patriots who serve in ICE. I don't mean that. What I mean is, in terms of numbers, right? If you look, I mean, we're not out on the streets protesting, right? Generally, we're not. We're not. In other words, you take 1 million Republican voters versus 1 million Democrat voters. Overall, and I'm just looking at total population, they clearly hate the United States more than that million love it. Why? Because the 1 million Republicans are generally passive. They just stand there and take it. They're what's called a silent majority. The Democrats, every time a Republican president wins, it doesn't matter whether it's Trump or George W. Bush, or I remember under Reagan, my God, they were going to tear the country apart. He was Hitler. And he was going to get us all killed, and it was going to be a nuclear war. And, I mean, protest after protest after protest. My God, they were gunning for him on Iran-Contra. They wanted his head. I remember Bush 41. Oh, my God, I was at university then. He's the Hitler. You should have seen him. They're going nuts. And so what I'm just saying is, I'm not talking on an individual basis. I don't mean it that way, Joe. What I mean is, you compare overall Republican voters to Democrat voters. God, they hate that country. I mean, they hate our country. And Republican voters, yeah, we love America, but I mean, you're talking about people who are willing to risk their lives, and there are many of them. But on the whole, they're comfortable. They stay home, and they go, here, look, I have neighbors. You know what they all tell me? Let Trump take care of it. I mean, they voted for Trump. But I say to them, how come I call rallies. How come you never come? Let Trump take care of it. No, I got a Saturday afternoon. I'm not going to go to downtown Boston and go to a rally. Why? Well, okay. Well, then we're not going to have a big enough presence to make an impact. You got to do something if you want to save our country. So there are too many complacent people on our side. That's my only point, Joe. Go.
I agree. But if it's the paid protesters that are making the difference, the ones that are showing up at every rally, the ones that are showing up at every ICE thing, if we have jobs as Republicans, so if we have a billionaire, if we have a Home Depot guy or an Overstock guy who pays our activists, they'll take off work. I'll take off work if you pay me $100 an hour. I can't take it off if you don't, but if you do, I'll be with this sign clapping every time they get off a bus. I'll open the door for them in a restaurant. I'll follow their vans around to support them wherever they go, block cars that are trying to get in their way, because I can be there, because I can get away from my job. I'll have the signs printed up. They're all set to go. Everywhere they go, the news can't avoid but seeing me, because my side organized at least as good as the Democrat side. Why are we so crappy at organizing and they so good?
Brilliant.
And it's not because of dedication. It's laziness and cheapness.
You nailed it. I couldn't have said it better myself. Brilliant. Honestly, brilliant. And Joe, look, just to finish this, to put, like I like to say, an exclamation point on what you just said. There were about 1,000 protesters in all, okay, in Minneapolis. About 1,000, So, and it's the same one. They just keep recycling them. And that 1,000 kept getting played all day, all night on cable news, on the evening news, everywhere. Well, okay, not even outnumber them. Let's say there were 1,000 of us, like you said. 1,000 pro-ICE protesters. And so they're like, whoa, look at this. Imagine the optics, how it would change. Yeah, there's a lot of 1,000 out there against ICE, but look at the other 1,000 pro-ICE. Whoa. It would have changed everything. Never mind if 2, 3, 4, 5,000 of us showed up, and then we just completely swamp them. Even if it's 1-to-1, then you can't do the color revolution. You can't, throw the wool in people's eyes and say, well, look at the opposition. Look at the opposition to Trump's policies. Look at this. Look at these protests. They're everywhere. We're complacent, and I love us. You know that, okay? I love us. But we're too complacent and we're too cheap. And I'm talking mostly not you, obviously, but I'm talking, like the wealthy people on our side. Look, in a way, it's a virtue. They run successful businesses. You're there to make a profit. You don't believe in corporate welfare. But guys, could you spend a few bucks, man? It's like when I try to get money for the Boston Broadside. I mean, I get zero. I get nothing. Okay, nothing. And I'm like, can't we build up one media outlet, one newspaper, just one that's an alternative to the left in the state? And to get, these are people with money. I got to pull teeth to get them to buy a subscription. What is it, like $30 or $35 for a year? I'm thinking, like, could you guys write $1,000 check? Maybe it's no longer a monthly, it becomes a weekly. Maybe there's more of a website presence. Like, we could really build this thing up and it could be a real effective alternative. I'm telling you, I'd rather get root canal, I swear to you, than deal with potential donors. They're cheap. But, they'll go to a restaurant and blow $1,000 on a meal, no problem. And, well, all right, here, I'll write you a check for, a Lonnie, if whatever. Here's $35. I'll get you, here's first subscription. I'm like, oh, well, that's not going to win us. We're not going to win a media war with a $35 subscription check when we need big donors to pony up. The left, they pay. Say what you want about George Soros. He pays. Bill Gates, that pervert, he pays. Our side, not so much. Harry in Maine. Thanks for holding, Harry, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning.
Hi, Harry.
Hey, Jeff, earlier you used you did say that the polls actually support Trump at this point in time relative to deportation.
Yes.
Okay. So I really think it's incorrect when we describe it as him being pragmatic. I don't think Trump's being pragmatic at all. I think he's being accommodating. I think that's the proper description. Help me understand this, Jeff. Does the law only apply where it's invited? Help me understand this, Jeff. So when Trump's on his campaign and he promises to make, as part of his overall mission, America safe again, does that only apply to red states and red cities? I didn't vote for this. I like Trump. I support Trump. I support him still today. But what it boils down to, and I've called you now the last 3 times, I'm going to use this word again, accountability. A for accountability. Trump gets an F for execution of accountability. Why? He's got the weakest DOJ that he could possibly have with Pam Bondi. They have not held people to account. Look at the people here that are involved. Waltz, Frey, Flanagan, you name them, Michelle Wu, Maura Healey. With all the rhetoric and everything that's being used and what's being said and inciting the people, how is that any different? Where Trump said go down and peacefully and patriotically protest, they impeached the guy over that. And Pam Bondi and her crew can't go and bring charges of insurrection and obstruction of justice to all these fools that I just mentioned? I mean, it's just absurd. And I don't think that she's challenged them. And I think their ass should have been thrown in jail. And the other thing I said before, I'm going to say it again. I agree with you 1,000% on this, Jeff. I don't hold ICE accountable for the deaths of these 2 people. I don't. The bottom line is there's a particular layer of law enforcement that was missing, and that's the local and state police. And since these leaders wouldn't allow them to do their job, the local and state police, Trump should have put in the National Guard and nipped it at the bud. It just got out of control. And by the way, we talk about the media, and I understand that they're totally against the conservative.
Harry, can you do me a big favor? I'm up against the break. I don't want to rush you. I want you to finish your thought, but you are on fire, my friend. Okay, let's go right back to Harry in Maine. Harry, please pick up where you left off.
Jeff, I'll just wrap it up like this. You said it earlier, and I'm not going to, go overboard on this, but you're right again. He's just pausing things. So if you're an illegal, you're just going to go to a sanctuary city and wait it out. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's a small price to pay. And by the way, there's no assurance who's going to win the election in 2028. So a new president comes in, these people are just going to go on their merry way and just infiltrate all the red cities and right back to where we started. So time is of the essence here. And just again, just make a comparison. I don't think ICE is responsible for local law enforcement. That falls on the police, as I said earlier. But the same thing here. It falls back on accountability with Bondi. Look at the disgrace she is when it came to prosecuting Comey and Letitia James, just as an example. Poor Lindsay Halligan got thrown out to dry, but she was put in a bad position by Bondi. She was not rightfully appointed, and Bondi didn't do her homework. And arresting people like Don Lemon, yeah, that's good. They need to do that. But again, where's Comey? Where's Clapper? Where's Brennan? Where's Fauci? Where's Fannie Willis? Where's the prosecution of the auto pen and the blanket pardons? Where's Letitia James? Where's Swalwell and where's Adam Schiff on their real estate fraud? I can go on and on and on. And what it keeps coming back to, Jeff, it comes back to accountability. It comes back to your Justice Department, and that is a weak link. And Trump's getting bad advice from Wiley or Lindsey Graham or whoever to take the tactic that he's taken now. It's a poor strategy, and it's not going to work in the long run. That's my opinion.
Harry, let me ask you this. Say, just for the sake of argument, the Democrats win back the White House in 2028. God forbid, okay? And the red states say, nah, we're not going to abide by, your policies. No, we don't think they apply to us. Nah, we're sanctuary cities. We're sanctuary states. In other words, if the shoes were reversed, if the tables were turned, what do you think a Merrick Garland as Attorney General, a Biden, not that he would ever come back, but a Gavin Newsom as president, whatever, whoever, okay? What do you think? Would they say, yeah, we're going to only, we're going to defer. We want to accommodate you. Yes, you can have your sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. Unless we're invited, we're not going to send in federal law enforcement. Do you think they would take that attitude? Or do you think they would start arresting red state mayors and red state governors? In other words, say Jacob Fry, if he was not a Democrat but a Republican, and he was openly thumbing his nose at federal law during, let's say, during a Biden or an Obama administration, would Jacob Fry be in handcuffs, or would he still be running his mouth off as he is today? I'm just curious. What's your opinion?
Simple question, simple answer. Garland's DOJ would hold them all in contempt and obstruction of justice, and that would be that with that. They'd be done. And as far as the two people that got killed at the Capitol, think about this. Babbitt, if you Google it, by the way, it'll say that Ashley Babbitt was shot in the shoulder by Capitol Police. What a joke. And the other one was Roseanne Boylan. Well, think about how it was handled at that time by the media. They asked the administration, they just swept it under the carpet and said, you know what's being investigated, and we'll let the law play out. Trump should have did the same thing with the two people that got killed in Minnesota, with Preddy and Good. Just said, look, we're doing a full investigation, and we're going to let it play out and move on. But to answer your question, Jeff, if the shoe was on the other foot, if things were reversed, as you said, they just would say it's obstruction of justice, and they throw the Republican mayor, let's say in this case Fry, or the Republican governor, let's say in this case Waltz, they throw them right in jail. End of story.
No question.
Anyway, Jeff.
No question. Harry, you got to call more often. God bless you, my friend. Don't be a stranger. 617-266-6868. Am I wrong? Is Harry wrong? In other words, here, okay? I agree with Harry. Please don't get me wrong. All the names that he mentioned, yes, they should all be in jail. Okay? Yes, no question. But had they just arrested Jacob Fry, just one, for blatant obstruction, there's no question, okay? Blatantly interfering with federal law enforcement. We've got him dead to rights, okay? It was an insurrection. He led it. Just one arrest what do you think the chilling effect would have been? Healy, Wu, Brandon Johnson, Pritzker, Newsom, Bass. I can run down the whole list. Say, oh, no, we got to cooperate with ICE. No, hey, no, I'm not going to jail. A few arrests, and we would have broken their back. Instead, nothing. And now they've become emboldened, and they believe now they're on the offense. Barbara in Florida. Thanks for holding, Barbara, and welcome.
Good morning.
Hi, Barbara.
They are on the offense, and they did win. I don't know why paid protesters are legal. I feel like that's something you're getting a skewed look at things, and I don't think Pam Bondi's done a good job at all. She hasn't arrested, to me, anyone. Who cares if she arrests Don Lemon? And Fry should have been arrested even for inciting a riot. I don't know where Trump is thinking, because there are people in Massachusetts that did vote for him. And now he's just going, okay, well, too bad. You guys lose.
Barbara, do you think this is going to hurt him in the midterms?
Yes. They're all going to come out and vote for Democrats. It's just very sad.
And you think a lot of the base is going to stay home?
Well, I wouldn't stay home. People do.
I agree. No, I'm not staying home either, but I agree with you. I think a lot of people are going to stay home. They're going to feel, I think, betrayed and demoralized. Joining us now, as she always does at this time, she is the co-founder, CEO, and president of Kelly Financial Services. And yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. When people think about investing, they picture charts, headlines, and market swings. But for young adults, the real challenge isn't the market, is knowing where to begin and how to stay disciplined. That's why my son, William Kelly Jr., wrote Only the Good Invest Young. This book isn't about shortcuts or speculation, because all investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. It's about mindset, habits, and long-term thinking, and how small, consistent decisions made early can shape your future. Because investing isn't about timing the market, it's about time in the market, discipline, and guidance. With Valentine's Day right around the corner, this could be a meaningful way to share something lasting with a child, a grandchild, or someone just starting out. If you'd like a complimentary copy of Only the Good Invest Young, just give us a call or email us, kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I'll continue this conversation tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or visit our website for the Radio Rewind. Jeff, have a wonderful weekend. My best to Grace and the kiddos.
Thank you, Kelly. All the best to you and everyone at Kelly Financial. To get a free copy of William Kelly's book, and I urge all of you, if you can, do get it. Call now, 888-800-1881, 888-800-1881, or you can actually email Kelly herself personally, kelly@kellyfinancial.org. That's kelly@kellyfinancial.org. And go Pats, go. That's the last thing I should have said to Kelly. And go Pats, go. And don't watch the halftime show with Bad Bunny. That's it. Those two things. Okay, 617-266-6868. Let's go to Tony in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Tony, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Tony, how are you, my friend?
Very well, thank you. I am calling you from the city of presidents. And I want to discuss, I'm excited about the move that our president just made. And I have been pretty squarely in the camp of Harry from Maine. I am furious about nothing being done. But I want to throw in a little perspective. It's very often in history that the perceived winner of a battle ends up being the eventual loser of a war. And that's where I see Minneapolis. But I don't just see Minneapolis there. I see the whole network, which is all the blue states. If we leave ICE, it looks like we have some egg on our face if we pull out ICE, right? Because it looks like we lost the war. But that would be if we didn't have a huge meatball in the fraud that we have them dead to rights on. If we go after, protesters, we're going to get, I'm sorry they passed, but we're going to get idiots like Preddy and Good who don't matter in the war, and I consider this a war for the Republic, okay? If we go after the fraud, we're going to get people like Walz, Fry, but we're also going to get where the money's going. Ilhan Omar has $35 million. The fraud in Minneapolis is $9 billion. That's 9,000 million. She has 35 of them. Where did all that money go? That money is in Somalia funding the war. You said Karen Bass. You said Gavin Newsom. They're funding other countries in Africa that China is backing on their Belt and Road Initiative, and they are funding their war against us. And it's coming from our taxpayer dollars. I would much rather, and I know Mara Healey's doing it, and I know Michelle Wu's doing it, and we all know that, right? And we haven't caught them in Massachusetts necessarily yet, which is why the audit is so important. But we have caught them dead to right in Minneapolis. Okay? I don't mind losing the battle in Minneapolis for a couple of months, as long as it's a few months before the midterms, if we win the war on the fraud and we take out the whole network, in which case, Donald, Mr. President, I invite you, a resident of Massachusetts, invite you to Massachusetts to pull Mara Healey's ass out of that state house and put her in jail when you have her for the fraud, like you have them. So if we're waiting for that and we're going to lose the battle, but we'll win the war, I'm fine with it if, and this is where Harry was so right, because Sal laid out the injury by the fraud. It does kill us to lose $9 billion when we work this hard. And then Joe said, why do we do nothing about it? Why do we never organize? Organizing there would just add to the chaos, which suits their purposes, not ours. But he's right, we don't do anything about it, and I'm with Harry. And I'll tell you what, a huge mistake that Donald Trump made in the war was letting Podesta and Hillary and her campaign go. Okay, because the plan they're following is Podesta's plan, and he let them go, and that's a mistake in
I agree.
war.
No, I agree. Sal, I got to say, sorry, Tony, forgive me.
I'm Tony.
I'm sorry, forgive me, Tony. Tony, you're dead on. You're absolutely dead on, Tony. Look, that I think was the key mistake. I think when you look, he's done so much that has been so good for our country. I thought his first term was an incredible first term. His first year is even better than his first term. He's got so many achievements, so many accomplishments. By the way, the economy now is really starting to rev up. I mean, it's starting to roar. I think things by the summer are going to be very different economically. I mean, he has put some pieces in place that are going to set us up for a generation or two. So I think Trump is going to go down in history as one of the greatest presidents we ever had. But if you look back, in terms of this resistance, this relentless resistance and opposition, let's be honest, this sabotage that they're waging against the president, he should have locked her up. He should have locked Hillary up. He should have put Podesta in jail. Tony, the Italians have a saying, the fish rots from the head down. And Hillary, Podesta, Obama, those are the heads of the Democratic Party. And it's rotten. And had they started arresting people like that, I think the country would have been very different. The opposition would have been smashed. It would have been intimidated. It would have been divided. It would have been fragmented. Instead, they're unified and they're very emboldened. And look, I think another mistake he made, he should have, I don't care, pick Tim Walz, Fry, I don't care who, but he needed to make a high-profile arrest for inciting riots and open sedition. And I think that's another mistake. But no, look, your larger point, and I'm much more optimistic on that because it doesn't rely so much on Bondi as it does on Scott Bessent. And Bessent is a phenomenal Secretary of the Treasury, and he's a brave, gutsy Treasury Secretary. Okay, he's not just all bark and no bite. You know, he's not living at the studios in Fox News. Bessent, I think, will pursue this fraud. I think there's no question. And I think if he does, a lot of Democrats are going to go to jail. And then I agree with you, Tony. If you start seeing prominent Democrats go to jail, starting with Ilhan Omar, going right down the list, then this strategic maneuver on the part of Trump looks very different. Very different. In other words, he's going to put these sanctuary city mayors and governors in prison, but on financial fraud. You know, like to me, it's like Al Capone. Get him for murder or get him for not paying his taxes. I don't care as long as you get him. So, Tony, look, you may be absolutely right. And I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. And I just want this to work out for the best because I want what's best for this country. Tony, again, thank you so much for that call. And by the way, I've been to Quincy many times and I have visited the graves of John Adams and Abigail Adams and John Quincy Adams. And I don't know why more Americans don't go because it is a very special place. Really a reverential place. Ed in Kingston. Thanks for holding, Ed, and welcome. Ed? Did we lose Ed? Okay, Maestro Mike. Nick in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Nick, and welcome.
How you doing, Jeff? A major problem with Republicans are the aged ones that are still there. Grassley wants to run again. McConnell is still rotting there at the head. Susan Collins has been there at least since the day that she saved Bill Clinton in his impeachment trial, by the way. So, anyways, you want to make an impact? There's 60 to 65 million people who are in Medicare. Medicare, in case you hasn't hit you yet, comes out of your Social Security money. That was a Johnson administration, okay? You should.
By the way, they're finding massive fraud in California now, both Medicare and Medicaid. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, as you know, Sunday, big day, it's the Super Bowl. Our New England Patriots, yes, baby, have made it to the big dance. And obviously, it's a tradition here in Kuhner country. On the Kuhner Report, Sandy always weighs in with her picks. So does Mike. So do I. Now, generally, I'm the guy that always gets it right. So I know many of you are, waiting with bated breath. What is the Kuhner man predicting? Because you're ready to place your bets. I understand. Sandy has the second best record. Mike is not bad. He's the most knowledgeable when it comes to sports. But in terms of, when we do the March Madness brackets and his predictions, he's more hit or miss. And of course, Bad Bunny. The halftime show, if you want to watch something else, what are some alternatives? So, joining us now is Sandy Shack. Sandy, how are you?
I'm fine, Jeffrey, although I'm still choking over the fact that you think you have the best record, and I'm second. I'm pretty sure I won March Madness last year. Mike, we both know, just overthinks everything. He just gets in his own way. But I'm fine and ready to give my picks if you want to hear them.
All right, Sandy, look, why don't you go first? Executive producer's privilege. So you go first. Seattle, New England, what say you, Sandy Von Schack?
I got to go with the home team. I think it's going to be the Patriots. I think they're going to make the cover, which is 4.5 points, and I think it's going to be a really tight, close game at the end, but the Patriots are going to pull it out.
Sandy, could you give us a score? Could you give us a...
I'm really bad at doing the actual scores, but if I had to pick, I would say maybe 31-30.
Whoa, 31-30. Okay. That's
yeah. That's what
all
I'm
right.
thinking.
Let's go to Mike. Mike, I know you're a big Pats fan, but remember, this is a prediction. We know you want the Pats to win, but who do you think will win?
I'm really starting to think the Patriots are going to win this game. I think everybody's betting and picking the Seahawks, and I just think that when everybody goes one way, go the opposite way. And plus, I mean, I want the Patriots to win. I don't want to jinx it, but I really do think the Patriots are going to win this football game. They kind of feel like a team of destiny this year, and I don't know. The way I've been thinking the last couple of days, I think they're either going to get their doors blown off or they're going to win outright. But I kind of have a good feeling about this one.
So they're either going to lose or they're going to win.
No.
Really. Either they're going to get destroyed.
Says,
I mean, this is unbelievable. Either they're going to get destroyed, they're going to get their doors blown off, to use your analogy, or they're going to win.
If it's a close game, I think they're going to pull it out. They've been finding ways to win close games all year.
So if it's close, they win. Otherwise, the Seahawks win.
Yes, and I mean, I don't trust Sam Darnold either. Mr. Poopy Pants over in Seattle.
All right, but Mike, listen, look, I mean, we need my friend, I need a final, I need some conviction here. I need an up or down.
23-20 Patriots.
So your prediction is the Patriots 23-20.
And Drake May, who got snubbed for the regular season NFL MVP last night, wins the Super Bowl MVP.
And Drake May, even with his bad shoulder and everything, he wins the Super Bowl MVP.
Correct.
Okay. Look, here it is to all the odd makers out there.
Jeff.
Yes.
Jeff, that sounds a lot to me like you. covering both bases. That sounds an awful lot like you.
Well, okay, to everybody, DraftKings is already, they're on the line, they're waiting. So, okay, my heart says New England. Okay, this is my heart. The Patriots 24, Seattle 21. My head says Seattle 27, New England Patriots 20. So there you have it.
This is just like, it sounds just like Mike. You and Mike.
So that's my final prediction. New England 24-21, my heart, my head, Seattle 27, New England 20. And we'll find out who's right on Monday.
Yeah, covering all bases. But this is what you're famous for. And it's not a bad way to go. So I need to know, Jeff, because I don't have access to the poll results. What are people saying about the Bad Bunny halftime show?
It's looking very bad for Bad Bunny right now. A lot of people they're not going to watch the halftime. I'll give you the exact breakdown. And by the way, there's still time to vote if you want. So the question is, will you watch the Bad Bunny halftime show on the Super Bowl this Sunday? Check this out, Sandy. Yes, 6.1%. Let's not quibble, 6%. No, 94%. So it's pretty decisive. Sandy, we've got 2 minutes left. Where can people go as an alternative to the halftime show?
There are two things you can do if you're among the 94% who do not want to watch Bad Bunny. One is that Turning Point USA is having a country rock lineup, which is led by Kid Rock. But the problem is it's going to be hard to see. The giant Sinclair Broadcast Group is having Bad Bunny on its affiliates, but its digital network is airing the country lineup. And so that's going to be there, as well as the Drama Channel Charge and the National News Desk. But I think if you don't want to see if you have those on your cable lineup, there is another traditional halftime show that I watch every single year. It's the Puppy Bowl. And this year, the Puppy Bowl is also adding older dogs, and they're going to have a showdown between Team Oldies and Team Goldies, offering a showcase for senior dogs as a reminder that they also need to be adopted and loved. So this year's Puppy Bowl 22 is going to have about 150 dogs from 72 shelters across the U.S., and you can watch it simulcast on Animal Planet, Discovery, TBS, True TV, HBO Max, and Discovery Plus. So there are many places you can go to see the Puppy Bowl. And by the way, they have kitten cheerleaders. Just saying. It's a show
I love it. Sandy, I love it. Ava is a huge, as you know, pet lover, dog lover, Ashton as well. We love Rocky, and that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be watching the Puppy Bowl. Great suggestions. Sandy, Mike, we will find out Monday who's right. You or me? And all I can say is, go, Pats, go!